Hey, everybody, it's Alison Lucan. We are here with an emergency edition of Too Many Men, and it's emergency because our beloved Sara is doing some crazy whack race situation in Salt Lake City that, you know what? We love her. If you think you can't do something, go look what Sara does, and it's pretty damn impressive. So she can't be with us while she's literally on a mountain. But I am here, blessed to be here with my otter brain twin, Shayna Goldman. Shayna, how are you?
Great. I really hope Sarah can get some Utah news for us. Like I need details about the coffee sitch. I want to know I want her to go to sit in the 7-Eleven for 30 minutes. And I want to see how many people do the coffee with the syrup, the soda with the syrups in the Stanley cups. Like I want to know
Did you
that's
not
true. That's not
watch?
just for TikTok.
Did you not watch the Mormon Wives show?
No, I've just seen it. I told you I got on Mormon Talk because of the Utah curl thing.
Mom, because the Utah curl thing.
It's apparently like when you curl your hair and the ends are straight, which I like that
Oh, I
look.
hate that. Anyway, I thought
If
you were
it's
going to say
short, I think it's
Mom
cute.
Talk, which is the whole
No.
Real Lives of Mormon Wives. It's garbage television, and I can't look away. It's so bad. But you should watch because they go to those stores and do all those drinks.
I want to know if that's really for TV. Like I need boots
No,
on the
it's
ground letting me
real.
know. Then
It's
she has to
real.
try it. Then I'm
It looks
she's on
disgusting.
a mountain, so I'm gonna wait till tomorrow. I'm going to remind myself to shoot her a text and be like, Sarah, can you try a Utah Coke? Like, do you have a special name? I don't know. Can you interview people for Too Many Men? Too
Oh my
many.
God.
See, there they'd be like, don't you mean too many women? Because there's like the Sister Wives vibe. Like, I feel like it would be too many women there. Anyway, I'm getting us
Anyway,
canceled.
wow. This is what happens, folks. You came here for hockey talk, and here we are. I do want to make a quick PSA because I keep meaning to make this announcement every episode, and I forget, and I understand why this is happening, but I don't think people have fully comprehended. Shayna, a while back you changed your Twitter handle, and I just want to make sure the people know. What is your Twitter handle? I'm serious because I still see people use Hey Shay, which I
Oh,
understand. So just
oops.
real quickly, your Twitter handle now is
Shayna Goldman underscore. I wanted at Shayna. It's taken. The person doesn't use the account. I thought about messaging them and saying, can I have it? And I was like, that would be so annoying.
well, you're a childless woman, so I don't think Elon's going to listen to you at all. So, well, here we are. Sorry.
Here we are.
Now we're really canceled. Anyway,
Anyway.
anyway, all right. Let's let's get into it. Again, emergency pod. I think we were flirting with, stuff is changing so rapidly on the playoff scene that we didn't know if there was time to do a pod before our regularly scheduled next week. But there has been some news. Let's go. This is going to be hard for me, Shayna. I was emotionally affected by this game. I am still not over it. For the fourth year, Ohio State and Wisconsin meet in the NCAA Championship Game for hockey. The two teams have traded the title back and forth. Ohio State coming in to defend their title. They are the only team to have handed Wisconsin a loss in regulation this season. I I can't talk about it. Tell the people what happened.
It was a batshit insane game. Like the tension, the action, the drama, everything and more. Ohio is up in the
Oh,
game.
Ohio State. There is an
Ohio State,
Ohio.
excuse me. Excuse me. Ohio State was up in the game and a puck was covered in the
But why?
crease.
But they were already on the penalty kill because of why?
Oh, too many men, too many players. Yeah. Which it was okay. Sometimes things happen in this universe, and I am not an everything happens for a reason person. But sometimes things happen and you go, this is so Allison coded, and the too many men penalty for Ohio State. It was like this was not the combination of Allison Lucan details that we needed in one moment, and we got it.
There was Alison Lucan coded in period one, though, however.
Because we got a shorthanded goal.
By whomst?
Joy done.
Here we are.
I I mean, I love it. And I'm watching the Blues game last night, and Jinsey is doing an interview, and I'm like, I gotta listen to this because the PWHL takeover is going to St. Louis, and I love how much the Blues are doing. Like, not to
Hmm.
get sidetracked, they are doing a lot. Like, I know there's you can get the signed Knight and Shen jerseys they're doing, and I think you could go watch open practices for both teams they have it set up. I love it.
We did that in Seattle. We had open practices.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
I that's such a nice detail. I think
yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah. So anyway, okay, so go ahead. So they're down a skater. There's what, 28 seconds left. And there is a challenge from the Wisconsin bench for a covered puck. Blake Bolden kept saying, if you watch it at slow-mo, it does look like it, but at game speed, that was not a covered puck. However, the officials decided it is, and in a moment, I must regretfully agree, was fucking fantastic than what happens at the Wisconsin bench.
So they say you get a penalty shot or a power play and you get your choice. And at that point in the game, you're probably going penalty shot because there's no time. So Johnson has the players on the bench and he goes, "Who wants it?" Which I love. I could not believe it. Who wants it? And Kirsten Sims is like, "I'll do it." And
And
she
literally, the
fucking
shot is so great, right? Because she's not even in frame, and all you see is from behind a glove raise towards the back of the huddle. So go ahead.
incredible. It was honestly the drama of it, the entire review, everything, because you have to feel for the officials in that moment too, because you might be deciding the game right there and you don't want to be. But it was really hard. You could have made either case and written a 10,000 word article defending the decision and been right or been completely wrong. Like it was so close to me. But Sims goes and she scores. And we are going to. Now, I noticed the ESPN broadcast doing this on the men. I didn't remember if they did on the women. They call it sudden victory overtime, not
I
sudden
loved
death.
it. I liked
I
it.
was like, okay, that's a
I
different way to
loved
put
that.
it.
I loved that. I did notice that
Yeah.
immediately, and I thought that was genius, and I think it should be used more. I loved
Yeah,
it.
I don't think I've ever seen it before. I noticed it last night. A bunch of the men's games went, and I was like, oh my God. I don't even think I noticed it on the women's final because I'm sitting there like biting my nails. I'm just here to watch a great game, right? I usually root for Ohio State because we love Muzz. She's, I think, such a sick coach. The team has always been amazing. And if like anything, I've read all the articles you did over the years about them, that I'm always rooting for them. And here I'm like, it'd be great if they won, but different champ. Okay, like I just want a great game. And holy shit, did we get it? So we go to overtime, and who scores the game winner? But Sims once again. A gutsy performance from her. I I don't know if she'll ever have a better career highlight than that. And that's the same. I would say the same thing if that's one of the men scoring in those two moments and then going on to the NHL and having a career, because we know how much college hockey means to everyone. But to do that not once but twice in the game, especially if you're volunteering yourself for it, that might have been like the biggest moment she'll ever have. And I think that is absolutely sick.
It was incredibly baller, and I hated every second. No, I was so mad because people, if in all seriousness, go find the first period of this game was like insane. The pace of it was ridiculous. The competitiveness of it was ridiculous. Amanda Thiele, the goaltender for Ohio State, played out of her mind, which is also why I was so upset at how it
She was
ended.
amazing.
But the first period is just incredible hockey. And then you get the shorthanded goal, and then Wisconsin responds right away within seconds to make it 1-1.
Layla Edwards, rising
Layla
star. Remember that
Edwards.
name.
Oh my God, she's so good. And for it to, like when they scored in overtime, I literally turned off the TV, threw the remote, and I had to go for a walk because I was just like, Ohio State was so close. But I acknowledge you can't take a penalty, especially a too many players penalty that late in the game. You have to have your discipline. I don't like the penalty shot call. And I'm not saying that as a little bit of a homer, yes, but Blake Bolden was saying she did not think that that was covering the puck. And in the chaos of that, like, come on, if we're really talking about intent, do we really think that they could even be conscientious of what was happening in that scrum? That's my take. But phenomenal hockey, and arguably, in all seriousness, good for Ohio State because this was not one of their best years compared to the other years when they made it to the championship. So good for them, I guess.
Yes. And amazing work by all of the defenders out there. The shot blocking, the
Oh,
amount of shot blocking and the positioning they put themselves in. There were so many moments I'm like, no way. And the recovery to get back into the play, I'm like, holy shit, incredible. And also the commentary team. It was Blake Bolden, it
so
was AJ
good.
Malesko. I forget who was doing
Oh,
play by play, and they
I,
showed him,
he's very
and
good.
he was great. And I was like, okay, the three of you go to an NHL game. Like, please. I know AJ and Blake both do some NHL games, but whoever did play-by-play, a lot of the times during women's hockey play-by-play, I think we all kind of roll our eyes, or it doesn't feel like they get to know the players well enough. And I was very impressed.
I hold on. I love him and I feel absolutely terrible. Jason Ross Jr. called it.
Yes.
A
Yes.
fantastic call. A fantastic call. Kudos to you, sir. It was wonderful. It was
Yep, he
really
did a
good.
great job. And I love, like I was starting to cook during the third period and like doing stuff, and then Rich ended up doing everything because I simply couldn't. But I love when you can hear a commentator start talking and like get your attention ready, where you're not sitting there like I am annoying to watch a game with when I listen to commentary because I am nitpicking it incessantly. Like incessantly. I
Yes.
can't help myself. And I was like, oh, that was really good. Like, oh, I'm like, oh, this is really good. The entire time, I'm like, damn, like, I want to hear you call more games.
Yeah. No, I thought he did a really, really nice job. And we often nitpick on, and he calls a variety of sports. Okay. So he's not primarily a hockey person. And to describe the game and the players in the way he did, I thought was incredible. And it was how the women's game should be called. I really loved it. And AJ is a goddess. So it was
Yeah.
awesome. It was so, 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 so good. So, so good. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that because I thought they were exceptional. But
Yeah.
kudos to both teams. And as much as I hate the outcome, iconic, iconic finish. Again, the image of her just raising the hand, it's if you haven't seen the clip, go watch it because it's exceptional. And then the move on the penalty shot is sick. So,
I loved her post-game interview too. Like the whole vibe of everything. I was like, you are a rising star. Like you
yes.
are an absolute rising star. And I love it now because you go, okay, you're having this great career. And it's like, look, there's somewhere for you to go.
Yeah.
There's somewhere, there always were places to go before, but now is that best on best league. And that can be your full-time job. Like I'm like, there you, I hope just keep fucking playing and keep crushing it. And we're talking about you for the next 10, 15 years.
And I want to give a shout out. I did on social, but again, a shout out to Nicole Haas, who was there live tweeting it. She has been around the women's game for forever. And as always, as these sports grow in terms of getting attention, always go to the OGs because they have the institutional and historical knowledge about these players, about these games, about these rivalries. And they're so smart about their coverage and they do such a great job that that's who we should be edifying and amplifying in moments like this. Phenomenal job, Nicole, as always. Great stuff. You're just nodding at me.
I'm not, oh yeah, I'm nodding and agreeing. I'm like, yeah, she killed it. I'm agreeing with everything you said. The coverage is so good. It's so nice because like I feel like sometimes I can't stay as wrapped up in the women's game as I want to because the silly little men play way too many games. Um, but there's so much amazing work to catch up and be set for the game and get ready and get pumped and get hyped and all of the coverage. Fantastic.
So the other bit of news that we wanted, oh, I shouldn't even say that. How dare I? Sarah's not here. The other headline that we thought
The other
deserved.
headline.
What? Why is that bad?
That's an episode title right there. The other headline.
Oh, I had a different title, but I'll change it for you. That's fine.
No, no,
Um,
no. You're the master of this. I'm not,
No, no, we're good.
you know,
We're good.
there.
Okay. So the other headline that I think was what the really compelling point to push us to an emergency pod episode is, and folks, again, we will get back to the NHL of it all this coming week on Wednesday, but stuff is literally changing on a day-to-day basis in terms of who's doing what. But I might end up being right in my prediction, and I can't wait.
I know, I know. I'm so here for it.
It will be insane.
And
Seriously.
then to see now, like there's some reports like, yeah, they might use their option on Rick Tocchet, and you're like, Vancouver, are you sure? I want to say, are you sure?
Well, this is a perfect segue. Thank you, Shayna Goldman. Brilliant as
Yes.
always, because Rick Tocchet is a name that's also in the news because as of right now, there is now an additional vacancy in terms of a permanent head coach in the NHL, and that is because John Tortorella, with 10 games left, was fired by the Flyers. There are still details coming out. There is evolving news as we record. What we do know as facts is that after his last game coached, and the Flyers had been struggling, what was it, 11 straight losses, I do believe.
And
Um,
back-to-back games with 7 goals allowed.
thank you very much. Um, Comes out and says he's not really interested in coaching this kind of team. A lot of people felt that that was a curious comment. To be honest with you, I didn't. And that's more so because I think what I heard in that comment was And he also said in that comment, he said, but this is all on me. Like I have to be better at doing my job. Like that's very torts. I think that's far more impressive if you really think about it than shitting on players when they're in the midst of that. And it's a nice way to handle a situation like this when the roster has been depleted by trade deadline moves, which many teams do. There's nothing wrong with that strategy if that's what the front office thinks. But to me, what I heard was he thought that this team, because if you remember last year, folks, this was a team that was in the conversation, was a lot more competitive down the stretch, even up into the deadline. What I heard was a coach saying, I thought that this was going to be handled differently. And I don't want to say he didn't disagree because I don't know that. I have not talked to Torts, but the roster wasn't what he expected it to be, maybe. And it's really hard to be like, oh, here we go again when you can't see the steps forward and you're only seeing the steps back. That's what I heard. Anyway, so then it comes out that he had stepped away, and then the team officially puts out on social media that he was terminated. Briere comes out and does a media availability saying it wasn't just those comments, it was a lot of little things. And as we record, we do know that Bradshaw, the longtime assistant coach to John Tortorella, who is more than deserving of getting an opportunity to be a head coach in the NHL. They win their game last night, but Cam York, fully dressed, sits on the bench and does not play. And Bradshaw says after the game that it was for a disciplinary issue. And now there are reports coming out that there was some sort of underlined star, not physical, but altercation between Cam York and John Tortorella. That Cam York has since come out and spoken to the media. Kudos for him on that, and basically saying that it was an issue in the room and that it's been addressed and that he appreciated what Torts has taught him and that the team will move forward. Exhale. Those are all the facts I think as I know them. Shayna, first, keep me honest if there's something I didn't report that you think is salient to this, and then share your immediate reaction. Again, this is still kind of a developing situation.
I want to start that quote after the second game that they allowed 7 goals. First of all, we all know that teams tend to fire their coaches when their goaltending is doing bad things. But I think it's very important to note where they played. They were playing in the center of the universe, Toronto. And if you want to shield your players in any market, and we know that's a Tortsian move, right? They played poorly. Now I'm going to put the attention on me that you're only talking about me after the game and nothing else. That is the time to do it, to take some of the pressure off, especially off the goaltenders who have just been dreadful this season, all of them.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to slice it at this point. But it's a very towards move to put the attention on himself. And I think those comments did that. Intentional, not intentional, who's to say, but we know he has done it intentionally before. So I think that's an important detail that this happened in Toronto. And who knows how many players were not thrilled that Scott Laughton was moved to Toronto. And they did talk about that a little bit. Um, the other thing was too, like you mentioned where they were last year in the playoffs, the playoff picture at this point, even after selling at the deadline, they were playing competitive games. And he's saying like he doesn't know how to coach these. They're meaningless games at the end of the day. You
Yeah.
are focusing on player development, but you're not going anywhere else. And you have no hopes to do it at this point. You need work in the off season. So you just have to coach the end of the season with nothing to strive for. It's a different position for him to be in. The rebuild from the start was an odd role for him and an odd fit based on where he's coached in the past. So if he's saying, I don't know how to navigate this situation, he's just being honest. And even if he says, I don't want to coach in these situations, what coach does want to coach through a losing part of the season? Nobody wants to. It doesn't mean that you're not going to learn how to handle it. It's just, why would you want to? Right? So I took it at that and didn't think anything more. But the fact that you're going to make this change now instead of waiting towards the end of
Yeah.
the season is just like a bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah. The timing is certainly, again, there were clearly a lot of things. And if there was, in fact, this altercation with Cam York, I mean, can be a significant event, but like it is kind of like adding the extra little dig to fire him with just 10 games left, right? Like it had to be significant for them to say, we are not even going to let you finish this out. And I think back to Torts' first year in Columbus, which was similar. The team was literally out of it when he got hired because they started 0-8. But I think there it may have felt a little different because there was a more clear picture of the core and the core being close to contention versus I think the Flyers have some really nice pieces, obviously. but I think it felt a little bit more like a teardown. That's just my take. I'm not there. So Flyers fans, I apologize if I'm misreading the room. But again, it's just it was such a big step back too that's hard for him. So I don't know. I think other stuff, let's see, I'm talk about something, Shane. I'm going to skim this report of Cam York's availability one more time just to make sure we covered his perspective also.
Yeah, Charlie O'Connor wrote something today that was talking about there was a disconnect between Tortorella and Breer. Maybe it was bigger than we knew publicly. And I do wonder if that's the case as well, because maybe Tortorella thought this team they could have built on last year's momentum without losing the long-term vision. And it's very challenging to balance that, right? Like
Yes.
selling at the deadline, I'm sure nobody wanted to do last year, but they knew it was for the future. And then to not take a step forward this year has to hurt. But in one way, it's like, well, from the beginning of this rebuild, all of them were kind of united on that same front of like, this is what we're doing, this is the process. But sometimes you have to like evolve on the fly a little bit to how the team is and then make the decision. Do you keep tearing it down and go down the path that Chicago did, or do you try to turn it around a little bit quicker? Because some teams can do that and still find sustainable success. You just have to nail it essentially. So was there just that, did it keep falling apart? And, you never know this year at the deadline, players are getting moved out. And as much as you might say, well, that's a necessary part of the process, you always have to like walk that line of don't tear this team down too far, right? Like we were talking about the San Jose Sharks and all the moves they made, and it made a lot of sense to move out a lot of players, right? Cody Cece, Granlund, get those first round picks, enjoy. When they moved out Zetterland, I was like, did that go a step too far? And it might not seem like a big move in the moment because you're like, that's a winger, they can replace him. But he seems like someone that could be a part of the present and the future. And you go, do you want to leave guys with Celebrini with nobody? And Will Smith, do you want to do anything that might dampen their development? Sure, you still have guys like Toffoli and Wenberg, but you don't want to become the Blackhawks and you don't want to extend this process. So like, did they do that?
So I want to talk about did you were you able to watch any of the Sharks game last night?
Yes, I did. Oh my
Okay.
God.
So here's what I think the Sharks are doing right. And it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. But they still manage, they're having just as much fun without people think they're not taking their job seriously as they did during like the Jumbo Joe days, right? And like,
The
did you hear
sleepover, like shit like that.
100%? And did you hear the final call? So they win in the shootout over the Leafs. And the final call is the most fun last place team you'll ever see. Like, hilarious, perfect. And like that's I think the Sharks are managing, I do not know how, literally, it's
Yeah.
fascinating to keep it light and to, at least from the outside, it looks like have a productive, positive culture in the midst of literally being the last place team in the league. That's the
Yeah.
difference.
And that it literally goes through that entire organization, I think. I like honestly,
Yeah,
down to the
100%.
broadcasters. Randy Hahn's calling the game last night, and they show him when it comes back from commercial, and they have fanny packs. And he unbuttons his suit to show the fanny pack on, and he calls it a cross-body bag and makes a joke about how he doesn't like talking about body bags at his age. And they flash to, I think Drew Ramada is like ringside, and he's dying listening to that one. And I'm like, it's just funny. There's something about like their broadcast. There's like a chipperness to it that like I think they're very good at even during the bad games keeping it interesting.
Yeah,
But it's at all levels, right?
yeah,
The Tyler Toffoli stuff with Celebrini and Will Smith. Will Smith and
fantastic.
Celebrini on TikTok, amazing.
And you know what's
And
great about that is that Tyler Toffoli, the vet, is the one sleeping on the rollout. Like
And I
that's
love that
like
he's like, you're not doing this. And the coach has to be like, no, no, you're doing this. And people are like, why would a coach ever tell a guy to do it? Because it's good for the team. I think Ryan Wafarski, did I say that? I don't know. We're,
Warsofsky.
we're okay, Warsofsky. I am so bad at seeing names and speaking them. Oh my God. He has been the breath
Drysidle,
of, listen, I see nothing wrong.
Jean Coutier.
At least, it's not just me. We have Jarmo Kekalainen.
I still go back and listen to Sarah Sean Couturier.
Oh my God, Coutier.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Coach
I
Wasowski.
think he was the perfect coach for them because he's this up and coming new coach that we've heard about for some time, similar to Spencer Carberry, right? Like we were waiting for them to like make their mark in the NHL. And they both have this vibe of like they're more than just this transitional coach to me.
Yeah.
Like he is what they were missing. And I don't think they had that same camaraderie under David Quinn. Like you didn't see it. and it feels different that they're staying in games and the way they stay engaged on the bench. And that's important to make every game matter. There was games earlier in the season, we're all shocked they're winning, even when Celebrini was sidelined. And it's like something feels different down to this game against the Leafs. And like, listen, if anyone's going to blow up a game against the Sharks and miss their opportunity, it's the Leafs twice this season, of course. But like, here it is, one of the best in the East going up against the worst team in the league. And they're still making it interesting. And there's a lightness to it while they're still learning the fundamentals. You're walking that line in such a way. And like, we have to give credit to it because when Mike Grier took over, I think we all were a little critical of what he did and the contracts handed out immediately and was like, was this the right move? And he was put in a tough situation, changed course, and now is doing what's best for his team. And it just feels like things are different than Chicago.
Yeah.
And I think Chicago's trying. Like I will
Yeah.
give
Oh,
Kyle
sure.
Davidson some credit. I really
100%.
do. It's tough because we're always going to use them as the punching bag of what not to do because it's been a long, tough process. But with the Sharks, you go, you know what? If you can keep this up, this is something that'll be really interesting. It's even different from the Ducks situation where it's like, is Greg Cronin the right coach and taking the fun out of the players? And is
Well, and there's
Verbeek the
Trevor
right guy?
Zegras turning into a goon. Like that, again, that's for me, it's fast because the difference is 1000% culture because you
Yep.
have future massive stars, you have players of varying degrees around the future stars, and yet the vibes are so completely different. And again, I can't say enough to have their fun they're having and present it in a way that doesn't make fans feel like they're not taking like it's when you're a losing team. I have covered losing teams. When you're a losing team, it is very hard to find the moments to have fun, right? Because fans get pissed off and then it's easy for the league to make fun of you and say you're a joke and that you're not taking stuff seriously. The way they thread that needle is shocking in the best way and good for them. Like it is 100% a culture situation, and more people should be trying to understand how they're doing it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an organizational buy-in, right? And like when we talk about using data in a front office, we're saying like, okay, well, it's great to have an analytics department and you can have 8 people staff, but if nobody wants to listen to them, it's one thing. And anyone you talk to say, how does it work? You want it that someone's there at the AGM level and it's bought in and integrated throughout, that the coaches are going, hey, we want these stats. Hey, can you have this in the stat package? We're interested in this. Or, if you're brought the information, they're going to take it in. And whether or not they use it, at least they listen to it, right? Like there's something where everyone's on the same page. You want different viewpoints and different perspectives, and you don't want it that everyone's just, a yes man to everything. But there still has to be that buy-in. And now you take the different ideas on how to make that buy-in work. And it feels like they have that versus, I guess, whatever's going on in Philly, which you could understand why maybe it wouldn't be there. I think everyone's going to look at that easily and say, well, it's different. You have Tortorella, a veteran coach, versus Briere, a brand new GM. Well, on the Sharks, they're two new coaches and it's a new GM and a new this and that. And it's like, sure, maybe, but it's not to say varying experience levels can't buy in on the same thing too, right?
It's there would be a really fascinating study if you looked at Edmonton, Toronto, Chicago, San Jose, and now potentially the Flyers, because all the paths are like we all talk all the time about, oh, rebuilds are hard, but I think the Sharks are showing us something that we have not seen in the league before. Do you know, in terms of how they're keeping the
Yeah.
vibes?
I felt
It's
like the Ducks had it and then they, like I
100%,
really did. And then it turned
100%.
out their management, there were all these issues, which is why they hired Verbeek. And they had the fun year. They were the Young Ducks and the Disruptors and Troy Terry and, Trevor Zegers are making their mark on the league. And it's so exciting. But it did fall apart to the point where this year you're seeing the Silverberg article talking about Greg Cronin and, who sounded great on paper, but maybe isn't. And it's not until this last stretch where you're like, oh shit, something's happening, right? We're talking about Mason McTavish of, is he not the franchise cornerstone we thought he was? And what's going to happen with Cutter Gauthier? Like, those aren't the conversations we want to have. And maybe the Sharks are going to get to that point where you go, okay, it's time to take the next
100%,
steps.
100%.
Just like the Red Wings, right? Like everyone thinks Steve Yzerman's so great and wonderful. And then it's like, are you? That can happen. Like everything can change. It depends how management, coaching, and the players evolve with what's going on and how they grow with the rebuild and progress and know the right times to do everything. But the start of it is so encouraging. And I don't think you see that often. For a rebuilding team, the season's miserable usually. And then it's like, okay, there's 9 games left, and we're gonna try these
Exactly.
guys on their entry level contracts, and this guy's coming in from college. And look, here's our top prospect. You're gonna get a preview of him, and you have something to watch, but you ate shit the entire year to get there. and you were miserable. So now you don't want it to poison the new people coming in too.
Right. But they're not, that's what they're not doing that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
it's amazing. It really, and they have moved out a lot of players. And this isn't even the same as like Barry Trotz takes over the Predators and goes, okay, these are not the character guys I want in my locker room, and I'm going to bring in guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Luke Shen, who I feel like they are. That's not why the Sharks are moving out guys. No one's gonna have a bad word to say about Eric Carlson as a teammate or Timo Meyer. You're not, it's not like they had to get rid of these guys, right? And they were smart with who they brought in. We have cap space. Okay, we're going to use it. We're going to bring in some veterans. We're giving multi-year deals. We're not just bringing them in to ship them right out. Like Tyler Toffoli, welcome to being the team dad, just like Joe Thornton was when he went to Toronto, right? And he's taking in Matthews and Marner and Nylander. Him and Marlowe are like, there's value to having that.
Apparently, we're a Sharks podcast now, Shayna.
Listen, I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. Their jerseys are 10 out of 10. Last time watching that, the black jerseys, I'm not
Here we go.
I don't love black jerseys on the ice because
Unless they're
I like
Carolinas. I love Carolinas.
yeah, but sometimes I'm like I see it on paper and I'm like I love this, right? Like the Kings jerseys, the Sharks jerseys, a lot of black jerseys, I'm like they are 10 out of 10 perfection. But then you see them on the ice and like I want color. I'm watching Avs Red Wings the other day and I'm like this is perfection. This is perfect. Love it. Don't change a thing. The Sharks home kits are teal top to bottom to the teal helmets. And I am like you don't get better than this. And even last night I watched, I'm like, these jerseys are sick and they look so good on the ice. Like I'm loving every element of that game. So yeah, we're a Sharks pod.
So figure out your culture, other teams, and now we'll see. So here, we'll leave you with this. But I do want to say again, I think it's going to be hard because of the market and because the Flyers are showing right now that part of their design, which I get, is that they're bringing in a lot of former Flyers to help make decisions and lead the ship, which Bradshaw is not. But he's getting a shake, and I think, again, this is a coach who has done some pretty impressive things. He made Risto Ristolainen a good defender. He was Zach Werenski's first coach. He coached Seth Jones in his most productive years. Um, just a tremendously thoughtful coach and quite innovative in what he's doing and in sharing it because he realizes that sharing it is not going to like make him worse or like make competition worse. So good for him, although albeit under bad circumstances. And here's what I'll leave you with, Shayna. Do we think John Tortorella will coach in the NHL again?
You know what I'm part of me wonders, does he get Bradshaw back as his assistant so they could go for it one more time together? Or does he say it's your turn, go thrive on your own? And he takes a step back because I know when he took the job with the Flyers, he said this was it for him. And I keep looking at going, you can't go out this way. This is not it for you. It should not be it for you. And we're the first people to criticize recycled coaches, right? We are. I'll
100%.
admit it. I talk shit first, think later sometimes because I'm like, please. But with John Tortorella, there is an element of refreshing, innovative ideas through the tort speak that you sometimes if you saw the quote and handed it to a random person in hockey and said which coach said that, they wouldn't be saying torts because they're like, no, 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 no. This is, this there's no way he would come up with that, right? Like you can teach an old dog new tricks. That's what I think he is showing us. And I think the Columbus era really exemplified that versus the Vancouver and New York eras that he had, that I feel like I want to see what he can do in another capacity, but it needs to be a different situation. It
Yeah.
needs to be, in my opinion, a team that's on the cusp of the playoffs, but not there yet. I think he would make a lot of sense for the New York Rangers to make something out of nothing and fix their fundamental 5-on-5 issues, which he did with the Flyers. I think he could make sense for a team like the Buffalo Sabres, who I think need a coach to
Oh
whip them
God.
into shape to help them move along. I don't know if I think he's perfect for the Bruins right now because I think they might be a step further back than the other two after selling so much, but we'll see what they look like in the summer. Are they going for the quick retool like Washington did? Maybe that's something. I I don't think he gets enough hype, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it's like Bradshaw's gonna go get a head coaching look on his own and then Torts goes, you know what, I'm done here. So that's my vibe. What's yours?
I really don't know because I like, and I would, to all the points you were just making, I would say this about any coach. Like, I think he can be a very good coach as long as the situation is right. You can take a great coach and put them in a bad situation, and then they're a terrible coach. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. But I don't know if you remember this. We did an article actually. It was before a Pittsburgh Columbus game, and we took coaches' quotes and said, "Did Mike Sullivan?" Because everyone loved Mike Sullivan, and we're like, "Is this a Mike Sullivan quote or a Torts quote?" And like when you look at the quotes, they actually like Torts, like you're saying, was far more progressive than people gave him credit for, and Sully was far more conservative than people would hold him accountable
Yep.
for in certain times. Anyway, okay, so that's the Torts news. We'll keep you abreast of that. But again, this is a guy who's had a long tenure in the NHL, and even though some people don't always recognize it, he has definitely evolved. I even heard the Halford and Bruff guys giving him credit that people did know that, particularly behind the scenes, this is someone who cares about people and really takes time to build relationships and take care of his team and those he works with. So we wish you well, Torts, in whatever comes next. But we're going to end this episode. Shayna, you informed me that while Colorado does not have a Mikko Rantanen, you have a Mikko Rantanen about Colorado. Take it
I
away.
do.
Did you see what I
Yeah,
did there?
so I brilliance. Absolute brilliance right there. Um, yeah, so the Jack Adams gets talked about a lot, and it's funny how cursed it is because here it was Rick Tocchet winning it last year when I think it should have been Spencer Carberry, but what do I know? And I would have had did I vote on that? Did writers vote on that?
On the Jack Adams?
Yeah.
No, no.
No. Yeah.
I
That's
think.
okay. So
Hold
I
on.
would have had
I haven't voted in so
sports.
many years. Hold on.
Yeah,
Keep going. Keep going.
I don't remember if I voted.
I think you would remember. It's the
I don't remember
broadcasters.
anything.
That's right. It's the
Okay, it
broadcasters.
is the broadcasters. So I would have had Carberry one and I would have had Torts three. And it's funny, like this year, Carberry's going to get his due a year later. And he should, right? For what he's done with the Capitals. And Dean Evison is getting a lot of hype, as he should for what he's done with the Blue Jackets. But there's one coach who just isn't getting the hype that is really bothering me, and it's Jared Bednar. And I think it's because, except for year one, because he took over late and they did not build the team for him, basically. He's had elite players that everyone's like, oh, yeah, of course he's going to be good. He has Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and then Cale Makar joins the fold, and then Taves. Like, who doesn't have a four like that? So he doesn't get what he deserves. Same with guys like John Cooper. But I think this is the year we need to change that. I've officially decided because you look at the turnover in Colorado, and there has been a lot of turnover in Colorado the entire year. And yes, he still has two super, super, super elite players that can lead the way on anything in Makar and McKinnon. But why are we not talking about Bednar for years past to be in the coach of the year conversation? And why are we not talking about it this year when you look at how well Colorado's played despite adding all these new faces into the mix? Hello, I think he's smoothed it out and found the right combinations, right? Like Nelson wasn't clicking. He figured out swap the wingers for the top two lines, and here you go. Let's cook. And I feel like they're doing such a good job and they prepare for the playoffs and they have all these combinations they've tested before when they know they're in. They did it the year they won the cup. They just started changing up the lines to go, what combinations will work for us? But he doesn't get it. Instead, we're voting for guys like Rick Tocchet last year, who got a ton of hype for a high shooting percentage, save percentage. And now this year, we're like, is he even going to be a coach of the Vancouver Canucks next season? Like, I think we need to rethink this award, and I think we need to give Jared Bednar his due.
If it was any other year, I love me some Jared Bednar. I
Yeah. No, no,
love
no.
me some
It's
Jared Bednar.
Carberry's this year,
No,
and
see,
he
I
deserves
actually
it.
disagree.
You're going Everson?
I am going Everson because I degree of difficulty is what
Yeah.
pushes Everson over the top for me because not only respectfully, in terms of, well, okay, Carberry gets some of this too. This is where Bedsy falls down for me is the talent that you're working with. Like I would
Yeah.
actually say that Colorado's front office should get, and I know it's a GM award, but they should get the award. Like to rebuild your
Yes.
goaltending on the fly is insane.
Yeah.
But for me, given what Everson had to manage from a not yet true star potential roster, and then just the mental health side of it, like we talked on this pod, like I remember thinking this when the tragedy happened, and then hearing the leaders of that team speak, I was like, I do not know how you ask those men to go play hockey. Like I really
Nope.
don't
Yep.
know how you do that. So that is part of why for me it's the degree of difficulty for Everson and what the team has done as a result. And then there's still, I mean, hopefully they're rebounding now, but like without
That's
Sean
going to be the
Monahan
key.
since January, like what are
Yeah.
we talking about here? So
They're 1-2 for sure. But
Yeah,
I'm saying it's time to get Jared Bednar on a goddamn ballot, and this is the
that's fair.
moment to do it. I think he should have gotten nods before, and I'm not one to
100%.
be like, well, he missed it in the past. Now we got to give it to him now. This is not the
Right.
Norris Trophy conversation 10 years ago. We're not going back there. But I just feel like guys like him and Cooper deserve a little bit more hype, and like now it's going to be behind the other two guys, rightfully so. But it was bothering me, and something. I don't remember. I was watching the broadcast last night and they're like, give Brad Stroud the Jack Adams now. And I'm like, everyone loves to give it to a new coach. And I got asked the other day, oh, should it be Jim Montgomery this year? And I'm like, listen, you can make a case for it because you literally saw a coach handle the same roster. And now here's the same
Right.
roster, new coach, and see the difference. And I'm all for it. But I keep looking at it going, when your team makes a lot of changes and you have to manage it, that deserves to be talked about too a little bit.
Yes, but I would suggest in some ways, like, and again, the goaltending stuff is insane, but like it got better. It's not like he had to do it
Yeah.
with worse. Yeah, I mean, there is
Yeah.
the loss of Rantanen for sure, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's not,
Yeah, it's the loss of Rantanen and then adding in Coyle and Johnson and Lindgren
right.
and knowing where to put him too that I'm like I'm I think he should have gotten the nod before, but it just like
Yeah.
out of nowhere I'm like why has he not been voted this? Why are we anti Jared Bednar? It's because none of us can compete with this fashion. Like, is this it?
Well, and also I talk about degree of difficulty. I also wonder if it isn't at the same time, like they're like, oh, but Makar and McKinnon. So
Yeah.
clearly it's
Yeah.
not the coaching. Do you know what I mean? So, but I don't disagree. I think Bedsy should get more love.
Yeah.
There we are.
I'm just if you're gonna hear a lot of because look, whoever takes over the Flyers next year, if they do a good job, they're gonna get the hype because we love new coaches in this league.
I love how in the midst of literally the most chaotic time of the year, we did not discuss one NHL game scenario in this podcast, Shayna. I'm proud of us.
No, there's time and energy to spend on that, and we have done a lot of it. And there are 3,000 games. There's what, six tonight,
It's
13
insane.
tomorrow, another five Sunday. So by the time we talk next week, who's to say? Because if we did this last week, we'd be like, the Montreal Canadiens are the best team in the East. And now we're like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
no.
They still need to cook a little bit longer. They're growing, but they still need to cook a little bit longer. All
Yeah.
right. So yeah, we can't. We're perfect.
Nope,
We can't
we
bring
will
in the game.
not.
No. So the playoff races, y'all, are so much fun this year in both the East and the West. Keep following them. We just wanted to bring you again this quick emergency pod and wish Sara and all her wonderful group that she's with an amazing event weekend. We will be back on Wednesday to bring you our usual breakdowns of all things NHL and hockey related. In the meantime, check us out on social, 2_much_man on the YouTube, on the Twitter, on the Instagram. Just replace that underscore with a hyphen if you're on the blue sky. We love to see you there. And we love to see all the shout outs when you guys see a too many men call or a too many players call, or you find a funny tweet like was sent last night about Vince Dunn saying math is hard. And the Kraken getting called for too many men. So keep being clever, keep being awesome. And until we talk again, we ask that you please do something, no matter how big or small, to make sure hockey truly is for everyone. We will talk to you soon.
Bye.